time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
You have done your work, you have put us to the wall. We are not the slaves.
I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report.
I have not seen the report.
A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us here on Global Television. I'm Muyi Agumofwegbe, welcoming you very specially to Global Mornings, our first for the week. Yes, the holiday week, Ramadan holiday. We need to state that very clearly. Incidentally, the federal government has declared tomorrow, Tuesday, and the day that follows, which is Wednesday. That means 9th and 10th of April have been declared public holidays, apparently on account of the Ramadan. We say congratulations to Muslim brothers and sisters. It's a time to heave a sigh of relief too. It's been a long time with the fasts and all of these spiritual exercises in between. As it comes to, for want of a better word, what I'd like to call a grand finale of some kind, spiritually speaking, is a time for reflection, sober reflection, that is, not just for Muslims alone, but for Nigerians as a whole. We are a country that prides itself in being very religious, all right, in struggling, or if you like, striving to want to bring God into every form of conversation. And there's no better time for us to represent that in ways that are remarkably practical than now. So we have to take a second look at how we live as individuals, as families, as communities, but overall as a country. Because we know that politicians, starting from today, particularly in the days ahead all through this week, will continue to send goodwill messages to Muslims across the country and across the world. But each of us, whether you're a Muslim or not, must take responsibility for the kind of country that we want to see, the kind of nation that would like to build. And we must put in the work one step at a time, one day at a time. And then we must build Nigeria one block at a time, in the manner of speaking. Again, welcome to the program. This last week, particularly into the weekend, a lot has happened. So much has changed in the political landscape of this country. As a matter of fact, as it stands today, it will appear that we have not recovered altogether from all of the drama that actually accompanied the 2023 general election, particularly as it has to do with the presidential election itself. All right, we understand, yes, it's been since February that elections had been concluded. I mean, in March, actually, elections had been concluded. By 29th of May, the president had been sworn in, governors had been sworn in. Of course, by June, the National Assembly had been inaugurated. Same for state houses of assembly across the country. But fast forward to virtually 10 months down the line, there are still conversations pivotal to issues around the 2023 general election. The Labour Party itself has been very, very central to that narrative, especially as it has to do with what is now being seen as a very stringent face-off between the Labour Party and, on the one hand, of course, on the other hand, the Nigeria Labour Congress. For starters, the NLC, that's the Nigeria Labour Congress, has now said, look, the Labour Party belongs to us. It's our party. We own it. You've got to give it back to us. As a matter of fact, a fortnight ago, we saw how that the National Secretariat of the Labour Party here in the nation's capital had been picketed by some members of the NLC because it's a Siamese twin of some sort for them. Those are my words. What they're saying is, Labour Party is ours. We formed it, we floated it, and as such, we want to now have it back. As a matter of fact, the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajero, has never been ambiguous about that. He's been very straightforward as to say, look, the Abure-led leadership of the party must now step down, all right, and hand the leadership of the party to the Nigeria Labour Congress, which of course is under the leadership of Comrade Joe Ajaero himself. But then Abure has been dogged about this. As a matter of fact, Congress had been conducted. Abure is the de facto leader of the party, even though we know that the Labour Party itself is divided, because you still have the Papa Lamidi faction of the LP, still, still pushing. But what are the implications of that? We'll let you know soon after this break. But let's now join Fatima Umar as we bring you Taste and Texture.
Hello and welcome to another scrumptious episode on Taste and Texture. I am Fatima Abba Umar. Today we'll be making French bread pizza. Pizza has always been a universally favorite snack. There is no easiest way to prep a lot of individual pizzas in no time at all. For busy weeknight dinners, entertaining kids, or almost any occasion, these personal pizzas fit the bill. Don't worry, there is no homemade pizza dough to knead or stretch. Thanks to the store. Get your French bread, pizza sauce, fresh mozzarella, and your toppings and go for it. Let everyone top their pizza as they please. Ingredients for pizza: 6 whole French bread slice, pizza sauce, pesto, shredded mozzarella cheese or grated cheese, 2 teaspoons of butter, 1 onion slice, then half sausage. For the toppings: pepperoni slices, bacon, tomato sliced, sliced black olive, sliced bell peppers, sliced red onion. And now let's make it. Preheat oven to 375 degrees. For the pizza, slice rolls of French bread in half. Lay them cut side up on a large baking sheet. Melt the butter in a large skillet over medium heat. Add the onions and cook, stirring occasionally until golden and soften. 8 to 10 minutes. Transfer to a plate. Add the sausage to the skillet. Cook, breaking up with a wooden spoon until no longer pink. 6 to 8 minutes. Top the bread with the onion and sausage. Sprinkle on your choice of optional toppings. Once assembled, put the pan in the oven on the lowest rack for 8 to 10 minutes. Crank up the heat to 425 degrees and put it in the highest rank until the cheese starts to bubble a bit and turn golden. 2 to 3 minutes. Remove and serve immediately. You can cut the pizzas into half right across the middle so they are mini French pizza bread. Nothing simpler in the world, and they are perfect for a slumber party, football gathering, or just any weekend nights. Though many types of pizza are high in calorie, sodium, and carbs, those prepared at home or in pizzeria can be made healthier by adding nutrient-dense topping or choosing whole grain crust. Surprisingly, certain types of pizza can actually promote better digestion. When you opt out for pizza with whole grain crust, you are incorporating dietary fiber into your meal. Fiber found in abundance in whole grains and some vegetable toppings play a crucial role in maintaining digestive health. Topping your pizza with different kinds of meat like ham or beef can be a delicious source of lean protein. It can be a nutritional breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So if anyone offers you an extra slice, there is no reason not to say no. That's all for now. See you same time next time for another finger-licking episode on Taste and Texture. Bye.
Well, thank you, Fatima Umar and her team for that brilliant piece put together there. So just a while ago, we're talking about the Labour Party and the challenges. Some people say, well, it's conflicts that it's now dealing with internally. So you have the Lamidi Papa faction on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you've got the Abure-led faction, and both of them claiming ownership, or in this case in particular leadership of the party. Of course, we've seen several court cases in this regard. One party, one faction coming out to claim victory, the other one also saying, well, they are the ones who have now been ordered by the courts to lead the party. As of today, the de facto chairman, national chairman, that is, of the party, is Barrister Abure, and as it stands, he doesn't have a house that is one, a house that is united, because the NLC says it is, I mean, there's no better time for us to have our party back, take our party back than now. But that doesn't seem to be happening just yet, because Abure says, I mean, we have built this party to this point. We have had to go through the thick and thin, all right, to strengthen Labour Party to what it is today, which, as the chairman of the Labour Party in Edo State, Comrade Ogbaloye, Kelly Ogbaloye, told me last week, is now the bride, all right, of all politicians. But then this has already shown that there will be implications for the Labour Party, particularly given that there are two off-cycle elections that are just a matter of months away. The first is the one in Edo State, scheduled for September 21. The other is for November in Ondo State. But let's talk about Edo State for a second. We understand as of today, the candidates of the Labour Party in Edo State's gubernatorial election is former National Bar Association president, talking about Olumide Akpata. All right. Now he is the flag bearer of the party in Edo State. Of course, there are three candidates. Politicians and onlookers say the public should watch out for in that election. The first, they say, is Aswe Igodalo of the PDP. The second, they say, is the APC candidate Monday Okpebolo, who is, by the way, a serving senator. And the third is Barrister Olumide Osagbovo Akpata. By the way, Osagbovo became one of those names quite prominently going into this election in Edo State. But that's not even the point. The point here is, with a divided Labour Party, how much of chance, all right, does the candidate have at the polls? Or maybe we should even say, how much of chance does the Labour Party itself stand? Because we understand that the candidature belongs to the party ultimately. So what does this internal wrangling, this division within the ranks of the Labour Party mean for the governorship election in Edo State generally, and for its candidates, Olumide Akpata in particular? Because whether you like it or not, we have seen parties that have been beating black and blue going into the election on account of the division that it had eternally. And the Labour Party doesn't seem to have learned a lesson from that one bit. Some people have said, well, there's the issue of ego on the part of those who are leading the Labour Party. Others say, well, it's a matter of, I mean, it's a human factor. There's no party that has not had its own fair share, maybe a little more than its fair share of internal wrangling or division, as it were. But then there's also the Peter Obi factor in all of this. The Labour Party has said, well, Peter Obi is a brand, in fact, it's a force to be reckoned with, and so on and so forth, and as such, we would want him to stay. However, the man reserves the right to leave if he finds a reason to do so, because we can't stop him. It is his inalienable right to exit the party if he so wishes. However, Obi has said, look, I go nowhere. I stay here. I remain in this party, because according to him, no matter the depth of the division in the party, it is still very possible for all of those issues to be resolved amicably. He says he believes in the party. He says it's going nowhere. He says, look, we can reunite this party, we can strengthen this party, and we can still form a common front as the Labour Party. Again, that is coming on the back of the fact that there had been several insinuations and speculations in different quarters about how that there is the possibility that Peter Obi, former Anambra State governor, is likely going to defect to the Social Democratic Party, that is the SDP. In fact, part of that speculation is that he wants to do that alongside the immediate past governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, because we had seen pictures of El-Rufai holding one meeting after another with the leaders of the SDP. Whether or not there's any truth in that is yet to be seen. However, what some politicians say, look to the north in this country, and they realize that you actually should have looked to the south in the first instance. You know what I mean? But then we wait to see how it pans out for the Labour Party, because for those who followed the evolution of the Labour Party, particularly between 2022 and 2023, going into the last circle general election, what we did see was a party that had evolved so fast at the speed of light that it became a phenomenon. And not just for the election itself, but even during the last round of INEC registration. There are people who say, look, we came out to vote, or we came out to register for the first time, so want to vote for the first time because of Peter Obi, not necessarily because of the Labour Party. On the other hand, the Labour Party's argument is, look, there's no Peter Obi without the Labour Party because he had also left ABGA at the point, moved to the PDP, left the PDP and came to the Labour Party. So we gave him an umbrella while he was being drenched in the rain. Again, that's what he's saying. But this is an ongoing development, and we hope the Labour Party gets to put its act together early enough, and then we hope that pays off for the party and for Nigerians ultimately. Let's take a break again as we join Anthony Momodu to bring you a snapshot of sports.
Hello sports fans, welcome to Sports News Update. Liverpool were desperate for a win over their bitter rivals as they hunt for their 20th league title, but they couldn't manage it. The Reds only have themselves to blame though after Luis Diaz put them a goal to the good. They should have put the game to bed. They didn't, and Bruno Fernandes and Kobe Manu nearly made them pay the full price of 3 points, but Mo Salah saved their blushes from the sport. The title race has been phenomenal and it is far from done. Supporters were left baffled after Manchester United Andre Onana was seen putting Vaseline on his goalkeeper's gloves during his size 2-2 draw at home to Liverpool. It isn't the first time that Onana has put Vaseline on his gloves, as he was also seen doing so during the game against West Ham in December. As explained by GoGlove on X, Vaseline is sometimes used by goalkeepers in wet conditions, which makes the glove palms extremely grippy. Using Vaseline immediately improves the holding power of gloves, as stated by Keeper Bam. Talking tennis, world number 1 Novak Djokovic has insisted that playing at the Paris Olympics is a priority for him this year. Djokovic has enjoyed an illustrious career but hasn't yet won an Olympic gold medal. The 36-year-old, who has won 24 Grand Slams, outlined his aim to achieve success in France. The Olympic tournament is set to be held at Roland Garros in late July. Djokovic is also set to compete in the French Open, which will be held at the same venue between May 20th and June 9th. In addition, Djokovic will be looking to retain his Wimbledon title, with the tournament taking place between July 1st and July 14th. And that's how we call it a wrap on the Sports News Update. I am Anthony Momodu.
that was Anthony Momodu bringing us a bit of a summary of highlights from the world of sports during the week. We understand that it was again a very stiff face-off between the Reds, as they call them, Liverpool and Manchester United. Anthony will bring you all of the juicy details here later in the course of the show this morning. But let's just quickly take a look at all of the issues from today. I mean, topical issues across the world of politics. And of course, a lot has happened this last week, like we had said just a while ago. Queen Agaba is on the show. By the way, Queen, it's good to see you. I'm sure you had a great weekend.
It's absolutely beautiful to see you. Yes, I did. Well rested. I'm sure it's reflecting.
Yes, it is. It is
How
glaring.
was your weekend, by the way?
Well, my weekend was great. A bit of work, but I found a way to do a balance between work and just trying to lean back a little. All right, because you need to do that to come back to work for the new week with a level head, you know, fresh insights and all of that, because it's still work and no play makes Uye a dull boy and things like that, right? So it was a great weekend overall.
I'm glad it is.
You know, I was just talking about internal politics a while ago before you joined the program, but I don't want to bore you with all of that because it has to do with the Labour Party, basically, and all of the internal wrangling now going on in the party. You know, during the week, there had been a lot of talks about Peter Obi leaving the Labour Party for most likely, according to the speculation, the SDP, Social Democratic Party, but the man has come out to speak for himself, to say, look, I go nowhere. This party belongs to us. We've got to fix it. We will resolve all of the issues that are plaguing us as a political entity, and so on and so forth. But at the root of that challenge is the fact that the NLC, that is the Nigeria Labour Congress, yes, which is a trade union, is now saying, look, we want our party back because we own the party. We only probably just allowed the platform for you guys to use, but now we want it back. But again, there's still that back and forth about that, yes.
But we mustn't take away the fact that Peter Obi has played an integral role, especially in the aspect of, you know, putting this party out there. The youth now see it as their party, you know, and he has redefined the Labour Party. It's only unfair for the NLC to say, okay, because we built it from, you can't take away the fact that Peter Obi is a, you know, key major player in, you know, restructuring.
But they're not saying Peter Obi should go. They're saying we want our party back. So Peter Obi can move with the party if he wants to.
If he wants to. Yes. But why was this request not made earlier before, you know, the elections? And
better late than never, I guess.
See, it's because of how well the
party has been now
structured and positioned. So you see, this goes to tell us that generally do well, you know, dust off whatever has been, you know, dusting your life, restructure it, and you see people who most likely would have written you off come back to be at your mercy, literally. So I think that it's only fair for them to want to come back and, you know.
Yeah, you know, we spoke with Comrade Kelly Ogbaloy, the Edo State chairman of Labour Party last week, and he said Labour is now the bride of everyone. Everybody wants to jump in. Yeah, but that bride, I mean, Labour wasn't that bride, to use the word of Mr. Ogbaloy, until we saw someone like Peter Obi. I mean, these are facts. These are not the opinions of Global Television or anybody affiliated with Global Television. These are facts, all right? They are all out there. Labour Party, yes, had always been there. As a matter of fact, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, former governor of Edo State, actually came from the Labour Party. In fact, I listened to him once when he referred to himself as a borrowed candidate. That was when he moved to the AC, the Action Congress, because he believed, and the facts are there, that he came from the Labour Party. So he said he was borrowed from the Labour Party. Of course, the Labour Party is not new to controversies or infighting, because at the point we started even now hearing, I mean, a party that broke out from the Labour Party known as Zenith Labour Party, ZLP, and so on and so forth. But more fundamentally, the Peter Obi element has defined and redefined the party. And then the questions, one of the questions analysts are now asking is, if you remove the Peter Obi elements, all right, where does it leave the Labour Party? That is yet to be seen, because it will appear that there are leaders in the party now grandstanding and saying, look, Obi or no Obi, Labour Party is here to stay. But whether that will be the case, because there are people who are also saying, look, if PDP had been smart enough to keep Peter Obi, maybe who knows, to feed him as candidates in the 2023 general election, maybe a vice presidential candidate from the north, the PDP would have probably won the election. I mean, these are all speculations. But the point they're making is Obi is a great product. That's their belief. That's their assessment. And for the Labour Party, it has to, if you like, de-emphasize its ego. It has to take a dispassionate look at where it is today, where it wants to go to in the future, because 2027 is around the corner, there's 2031, and so on and so forth. And you know, politicians know how to just envision election cycles, all right? So they want to be sure how they position themselves for these subsequent elections. This is where we're going to take a break. Everyone, Quinn and I are with you here until 10 o'clock African time, West African time here on Global Morning. But up next is the AM News.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers around the world. AM News. We're live in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Queen Agaba. Before we take a look at what's making the rounds this morning, let's take a quick break. And when we return, the news continues. Please stay with us. The federal government, through the National Identity Management Commission, will unveil an enhanced national identity card layered with payment capabilities and social service features. This new card, developed in collaboration with the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, will be powered by Afrigo, a national domestic card scheme. The head of corporate communications of NIMC, Kayode Adegoke, announced this. The World Health Organization has warned that diseases and disasters loom large as causes of death and disability. The organization said this in its message on Sunday to commemorate the 2024 World Health Day. The World Health Day is a global health awareness day celebrated every year on April 7 to provide an opportunity to focus world attention on a health problem or issue that deserves special attention. It said its Council on the Economics of Health for All has found that at least 140 countries recognize health as a human right in their constitution. Yet, countries are not passing and putting into practice laws to ensure their populations are entitled to access health services. Abia State Governor Dr. Alice Oti has said the state has paid all arrears of pensions dating back to 2014, which was owed to about 12,500 pensioners. Oti, who disclosed this at Government House Umuahia, vowed that pensioners will never be owed their pensions again. He assured that Abia pensioners will be receiving the 100% monthly pensions alongside workers on or before the 28th of every month. The governor further disclosed that payment of accumulated pensions in the state has greater positive impact on the economy of the state as it has injected money into the system. The Jigawa State Governor Umar Namadi has suspended the Commissioner for Commerce Aminu Kanta over alleged misappropriation of Ramadan feeding funds. The suspension, which is with immediate effect, follow the allegations of misappropriation of funds allocated for the Ramadan Iftar feeding program in the Babura local government area of the state. This was contained in a statement by the Secretary to the State Government, Bala Ibrahim, in Dutse, the state's capital. Meanwhile, Kogi State Governor Ahmed Ododo assured improvement in the welfare of civil servants in the state. Governor Ododo made this known in a briefing after an interactive session with leaders of organized labor in the state. The governor, who was speaking in the company of leaders of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, the Trade Union Congress, and other labor unions in the state, noted that the meeting with the labor leaders was to review critical steps so far taken by the state government to address the impact of the economic downturn in the state, especially as they affect workers in the public sector. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has filed fresh charges, including alleged fraudulent foreign exchange allocation of $2 billion against former Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, in the fresh 26-count charge filed at the Lagos State High Court in Ikeja. The anti-graft agency says Emefiele, while being CBN governor, arbitrarily allocated foreign exchange in the aggregate sum of $2 billion without bids, which act is prejudicial to the rights of Nigerians. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency have arrested 2 men for trafficking illicit drugs. The agency's Director of Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, shared this information via his X account along with the intercepted contraband. Babafemi stated that one of the suspects was traveling with a stolen identity and many wraps of cocaine in his stomach. He had to retch, vomit, and excrete to stay alive. Another set, armed with charms to escape, but still got caught. Agro Rangers of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps have repelled an attack by suspected bandits on the federal government's grain silo in the Dutsima local government area of Katsina State. The spokesman for the NSCDC, Buhari Hamisu, said in a statement in Katsina that the attack occurred on April 6th at about 1 a.m. According to him, the bandits wanted to destroy the silo and abduct its manager, Lawal Shitu Yaradua. But the Agro Rangers responded swiftly, engaging the bandits in a fierce gun duel for over 2 hours. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has approved the posting of dedicated public police relations officers and deputy public relations officers at the Force Headquarters, Abuja. These appointments, the Force Headquarters said, were meant to strengthen community engagement and strategic communication. This was disclosed by the first Public Relations Officer, Olumuyiwa Adejobi. The Inspector General of Police hereby reiterates his commitment to standardizing and repositioning the force in line with his vision. Officers of the Nigerian police force have excelled and emerged the best at the just concluded U.S. Special Program for Embassy Augmentation Response Spare Team mission at Amman, Jordan. The training was designed to enhance the team's skills in responding to various emergencies and tactical situations. The program was conducted by the U.S. Navy SEALs and covered by a wide range of topics, including several tactical drills and assessments, ensuring a well-rounded and thorough learning experience. This achievement not only demonstrates their dedication to professional growth, but also strengthens the capabilities of the Nigerian police force towards improved service delivery and sustainable national security and safety. You're watching the AM News, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times, channel 276. Kindly follow us on our social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. When the news AM returns, there'll be more stories. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, if you've just joined us, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcast of the AM News. On the foreign scene, thousands are being evacuated in the region of southwestern Russia because of floods made worse by a dam burst in Osk City. Officials say an emergency was declared across the entire Orenburg region after levels in the Oro River rose dangerously because of melting ice. Officials say 10,000 residents may be in the flooding zone and up to 4,000 houses could be inundated. More than 700 residents of 2 of the 3 districts of Osk were being evacuated, as well as thousands more in the wider region. Citizens of the Leninsky and Sovietsky district of Osk are being evacuated to temporary accommodation centers. Osk Mayor Vasily Kozepisa said the situation was rapidly worsening, with half of the city's Old Town district flooded and the rest potentially soon to be cut off from the rest of the city. Populist Peter Pellegrini has been elected president of Slovakia, succeeding the liberal Zuzana Kaputova. Pellegrini, 48, defeated the pro-Western Ivan Kakuk, a former diplomat, with 53% of the vote. He is an ally of Prime Minister Robert Fico and shares the Prime Minister's dovish attitude towards Russia. Fico and his allies now control Slovakia's parliament, government, and soon the president's office. Slovakia had been one of Ukraine's staunchest allies before Fico came to power in October on a pledge to hold supplies of Slovak army military stocks to Kyiv. The Pellegrini replacing Kaputova, Ukraine has now definitely lost the voice of support in an EU and NATO capital. In business, the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, recorded a 63.6% growth in its net operating surplus for 2023 to 1.37 billion naira. Speaking at the annual general meeting of the Institute today in Lagos, the President, Chairman of Council, CIBN, Ken Okpara, said that the net operating surplus crossed the 1 billion naira earmarked for 2023. According to Okpara, the Institute also recorded a 34.7% growth in revenue and a 9.11% increase in assets in 2023. Similarly, total revenue grew from 2.65 billion naira recorded in 2022 to 2.782 billion naira in 2023, representing 34.7% growth, while total assets grew from 7.8 billion naira in 2022 to 9.11 billion naira in 2023. The cost-to-income ratio for the year ended December 31st, 2023, stood at 50.72%, down from 59.41% in the corresponding period in 2022. The ratio is way below the approved Governing Council threshold of 61% for the 2023 financial year. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has dragged the Senate President Godswill Akpabio to court over the failure to refer the alleged 3.7 trillion naira budget pardon to appropriate anti-corruption agencies for investigation and prosecution, and to recall Senator Abdul Ningi, who blew the whistle on the allegations. The suit was filed April 5th at the Federal High Court, Abuja, by Serap's lawyer, Kolawole Oluwadare, who is also the organization's deputy director, and Adelanke Aremo. The organization added that Akpabio is sued for himself and on behalf of all members of Nigeria's Senate. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, reduced the exchange rate for computing import duty at the nation's seaports by 5.3%. The reduction is coming less than 48 hours after importers and clearing agents operating at the nation's seaports complained that the customs exchange rate rises higher than official foreign exchange market rate of the naira and the United States dollar. Customs exchange rate and the Nigerian Trade Hub portal revealed that the exchange rate for cargo clearance has reduced from 1,260.49 to 1,330.36 naira. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, has slammed a fine of 200 million naira on the Abuja Electricity Distribution PLC, AEDC, over the DISCO's non-compliance with a supplementary order to the April 2024 multi-year tariff order 2024 for power distribution companies, DISCOs. NEC disclosed this enforcement action against AEDC in a letter to its acting managing director, Victor Ojelabi, dated April 5th, 2024. According to the letter, AEDC was fined for the flagrant breach of the Commission's order for failing to comply with the prescribed customer band classifications for the tariff billing. The Commission says this decision followed a detailed review and customer feedback which revealed that AEDC had applied the new tariff of 225 naira per kilowatt hour to all customer bands, contrary to the order, which was designed to ensure fair billing practices. The Commission also mandated AEDC to reimburse through the provision of the balance of customer tokens that the affected customers would be entitled to receive at the applicable rates, and all token reimbursements shall be issued to the affected customers by April 11, 2024. Now, in entertainment, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has given out his daughter Modupe Oreoluwa in marriage to her lover Oladele. The white wedding was held a week after the traditional wedding. The union was solemnized at the Cathedral Church of Christ in Lagos by the Anglican Bishop of Lagos, retired Reverend Ifedola Okupevi. The wedding was attended by dignitaries including Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Remi Tinubu, Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State, Senator Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, Dr. Alex Oti, Governor Caleb Mufwang, Governor Chukwuma Soludo of Anambra State, and former Lagos State Governor Akinwumi Ambode, among others. In sports, Sunday football witnessed another of many rivalry clashes between Manchester United and Liverpool at the Old Trafford Stadium. At the season's Premier League, tourney is nearing its end with less than 10 games to be played. The battle for the top four and eventual league winner has been caught up in a roller coaster of wins and losses as teams fight off the relegation zone and jostle for European football qualification. Man United is somewhat cautious of today's match despite earning a 4-3 extra time win over Liverpool in the FA Cup quarterfinals last Sunday. And that's it on the Global AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times, channel 276. Kindly follow us on all social media handles using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching, and see you again.
us, everyone. It's been a great morning already, no doubt about that. We hope it stays that way. And we also hope you drive for 3 if you're using our roads this morning, because you have to drive your own vehicle, the one in front of you and the one right behind you. Of course, you have to have some regards for pedestrians and as well. Queen and I just... back for the second leg, as I'd like to call it, of the show this morning. Last week, one of the big stories that actually got to the emotions of many Nigerians was the announcement that going forward, per kilowatts of electricity will move up from 66 naira to about 225 naira. When you heard that, I know you were a bit bothered. I don't know if you use prepaid meter. I don't know if you are a postpaid customer. But it is a case of what touches one touches all. So it doesn't matter whether you're prepaid or postpaid. So what have been your thoughts about that?
So whether it affects me directly or not, whether I use prepaid or not, you know that the increase in electricity tariff affects every other thing.
Right.
Because you hear now that maybe for people whose businesses centers around electricity, most businesses actually, especially when you have to keep things frozen, they tell you that the cost of electricity now it affects basically everything. So I've been particularly concerned. I've been concerned particularly also because of the spike, how much it increased in days and all of that. So it's very worrisome. It affects me actually. I use prepaid meter.
It's interesting. We understand that the NERC, that's the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, yes, has given a bit of a timeline to the discos to say, look, you have to, for those customers or consumers who have been overcharged or overbilled, you have to do a refund to them no later than 10th of April, which is a Wednesday, and you must file evidence of compliance with us no later than 11th. Even though we know these 2 days are public holidays, but these issues of public interest, so public holidays will not become an obstacle in the direction. But for somebody who follows business, for example, what have been your assessment in terms of direct impact on businesses of whatever scale, but then particularly small and medium scale businesses?
Like I said, this affects literally everything,
right?
Especially business. And for small-scale businesses who may not be able to scale up as in terms of electricity tariff and all of that, it's going to affect. I had the privilege to speak to a couple of business owners, and for some reason, they are decrying the high rate of electricity tariff, and some people are even threatening to, maybe give a halt pending when, all of this is settled, as it affects their business, as electricity is a major for businesses. So I'm concerned for small businesses and even the medium-scale businesses as well, and even big businesses as well. Like I said earlier, that it affects every strata of business, and it's a major concern. And also, now you might be particularly concerned for small-scale business owners. If you patronize them, if you do business with these people, you know that it's not just going to affect them as well, it's going to affect their output and their end consumers as well, because this, quite frankly, is going to be challenging for them, having to put up with such high tariffs and all that, but it is going to tell on the prices of the goods to the end users or end consumers in the long run. So for small businesses,
It's interesting. We've seen the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, come out to say, look, this will not only affect businesses, it will even make some businesses close. Of course, you and I, Queen, have seen how that's a good number of businesses in this country have folded up altogether in some cases. In other cases, they've had to, under compulsion of the realities, economic realities, scale down operations very significantly. All right, so we've seen that. We've also seen people now saying, well, energy everywhere in the world is expensive, right, whether you like it or not. And that's why till tomorrow, in the build-up to the presidential election in the United States, you still hear candidates across political parties talk about how they would approach the issues of energy, especially now that we are even talking about climate change, going green, sustainable alternatives, and so on and so forth. But in the final analysis, I've spoken with people of the records, and they say, look, I mean, whatever they want to do is fine. After all, if you wanted to depend on generators, you wanted to buy fuel, it probably will cost you much more. Let's not even mention the implications, health-wise, environment-wise, of noise pollution, and so on and so forth. I mean, you have to fix your generators, you have to buy fuel or diesel, as the case may be, and then the noise, the inconvenience that comes with it, and so on and so forth. But there are people also now doing the numbers. They are looking at what it will cost them ultimately, because we hear that, the band A conversation is now becoming more popular by the day, because it appears ultimately, from what NERC is saying to the discos, every consumer will ultimately move to band A, whether you like it or not, because the idea is, in the final analysis, consumers enjoy a minimum of 20 hours of power supply on a daily basis, even though we know
20 hours.
Yes, 20 hours.
You enjoy 20 hours on
that's
a
what
daily basis.
In my case, I enjoy 18 to 20 cumulatively. Yes, but the question is that widespread? That's the question. Is this same story for everybody?
It's not same story.
Yes, of course, we all know that. That's what we're saying. Ultimately, that's the goal. Move everybody within 3 years. That's what NERC is saying to the discos. In 3 years, move everybody to band A. In other words, in 3 years' time, every consumer of electricity in Nigeria should enjoy a minimum of 20 hours a day. So that makes you a band A user, because as it stands right now, you have those who are in band A, those who are in band C, but NERC is saying move everybody to band A ultimately. But amongst other things, one of the things we're learning from this conversation is that Nigeria needs to do more in terms of power. The investment we make in power, whether it is financial in terms of funding or technical skills, must be such that the outputs that we see, that we enjoy, is also commensurate. Otherwise, it will appear like, as my mom would say, we're putting water in the basket.
Exactly. And for long, even in the visions, the previous visions, agendas for 2020 and all of that we've had, we've been promised sustainable electricity. And now that we're talking about band A and we're talking about electricity in the future, how sustainable is it? We're tired of having conversations around, there's a policy like this that's going to ensure that people enjoy lights. We were promised lights for 24 hours. And the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, how do we hold you accountable to say that, to see that you actually regulate these consumptions and all of that? And for the records, there's still quite a number of people that have not yet been metered. So these issues of, accumulated electricity bill, one person is being overbilled, overcharged at the expense of the others, have not been properly regulated yet. We're talking about we have people who don't enjoy sustainable power. We're talking about now people are weighing options actually. Businesses are weighing options. It's not even about the tariff now. The tariff is high, we know, but how consistent is it going to be? There are people that don't enjoy lights. I tell you for a fact that people that don't enjoy lights for even 12 hours, for up to 12 hours in 24 hours. And their tariffs are high. They complain about the electricity. They don't have electricity, and the tariffs keep going high. So people, obviously, businesses, SMEs are simply going to weigh the options. Quite frankly, fuel price is expensive. You know that. It's more like choosing between. But with the promises and the policies that are in place, and as regards moving everybody to the band A, having the band A conversations, we can only but hope. Even when we don't see it clearly. We don't see it clearly play out. We can only but hope. Businesses are weighing options of whether using generators, whether using solar energy, solar panels, as to how consistent the electricity is going to be, how consistent we're going to have energy. So hopefully that this is properly regulated, and we see that in 3 years' time. But this is, I would always say that we hope that in 3 years' time, as it is said, that people would at least enjoy electricity for up to 20 hours. as proposed. Because we've been promised, like I said earlier, we've been promised electricity for 24 hours. And there are areas that cannot boast of electricity for even 12 hours in 2020.
Well, I guess you was going to say 2024, but again, I thought I thought you were going to also say it's like being between the rock and a hard place. And
exactly.
You know, it can be very frustrating when, you know, I mean, I've had my lights was service was disrupted for 6 days. It was almost like 6 years for me, because you're just talk. You can't do a lot of things. It's almost like a part of your life. A chunk of your life actually is at a standstill, that sort of thing. But then that's all behind us now. But we hope we continue to improve on power, because you can't develop as a country in the 21st century if you have not addressed the issue of power. Look at University College Hospital, UCH in Ibadan. They got disconnected for, as we hear, a debt of almost half a billion, right? Well over 400 million. And now, whether they've been reconnected or not, we're not sure of. But I'm over the top of my head trying to figure out what implications that has had on that hospital. I mean, people are on life support. People need power to do a lot of things, sterilizing and so on and so forth. You need power to drive a lot of the equipment. I mean, this is more than a teaching hospital, all right? This is a very significant central health facility, and then power is cut, not in one unit, not in one ward, the entire facility, all right? We're taking a quick break now. Up next is paper review for you. It's great to have you stay with us here on Global Morning. The papers are flooded with stories this morning, big headlines, and we hope you do take out time as well to look at them as you make progress into this great Monday morning.
And we'll be starting the paper review with This Nigeria. Nigeria. On the front page of This Nigeria, we have just below the nameplate, we have review electricity tariff hike to save Nigerians from further suffering. Experts urge FG. What we have is This Nigeria. This Nigeria.
This Nigeria, right?
This Nigeria. For Nigeria's forex reserve suffers $1.2 billion decline in 18 days, says CBN. And then we have military airstrikes kill dozens of terrorists in Katsina, Borno State. That for me is good news. Nigerians call for stiffer sanctions against bandits. FCT police raid criminal hideouts, arrest 85 suspects. Media bodies, CSOs demand investigation into Olatunji's detention, seek prosecution of perpetrators. We also have Rwanda genocide. The world failed us in 1994, says Kagame. Kano governor urges EFCC to release forensic report on Ganduje's dollar saga. And then we have Eid al-Fitr. President Bola Tinubu arrives Lagos as FG declares Tuesday, Wednesday public holiday. That's all that we have on the front page of This Nigeria. Our next.
Let's take a look at the Business Day. That's our next port of call this morning. Business Day has quite a number of headlines, but the big one says CADOSO needs help as monetary policy nears wit's end. That doesn't sound like a good place to be when you are near wit's end. All right, but then we have always known from the ground up that Dr. Olayemi CADOSO, CBN governor, would have so much of house cleaning, to use the words of President Tinubu, to do upon assumption of office, and that work has barely even begun, as we can see right now with monetary and fiscal policies, even though we know sizable grounds have been covered. The rising costs push manufacturing exports down 62% in 4 years. The bunking economic needs, government budget deficits are not always bad. Okay, as we say in Pidgin, okay. All right, those are basically the headlines from Business Day. Quinn will bring us Daily Trust next.
Our next paper, the Daily Trust, the front page of the Daily Trust, just below the nameplate, we have Atiku tackles Tinubu over Lagos-Calabar Highway project. CBN sacks another 40 staff. Israel pulls troops out of southern Gaza. And the big story, Nigerians in UAE stranded over work permit visa ban. The writer there says lose over 200 jobs face discrimination. They should return home to build Nigeria. Discussions ongoing to resolve issues, Minister's aide says. And also we have a picture of rubbles. This should, I believe, should be the story of some destitute or a building collapse. The big picture there, but you can pick up a copy of the Daily Trust to read about that. Palliatives. 9 die in stampede in Wamako's house. Military neutralizes terrorists who killed soldiers in Borno. Media bodies, CSO demand investigation into editor's detention. Sultan asks Muslims to look out for shower moon today. I just want us to, the issue of palliatives. 9 die in stampede in Wamako's house.
Sokoto State.
Yes. You know, how do we, you know that this is a worthy initiative, that palliatives are given out to people who at that point in time cannot, maybe to some sort of cushion the effect of the fasting or economic hardship and all of that. But in trying to solve one problem, I think it's best to do things orderly, because I don't know how it was like. You know, it must have been such a crowd for 9 people to have died, and then they stampede. We saw this same story with the Nigerian customs during the distributions of palliatives as well in Lagos, where people died, you know, in a bid to cure or solve a particular problem or a particular need.
Then you further complicate it.
You further complicate it, just like we see here. It should have been best if, you know, especially in the north, where you know that people are hungry, or people are going to be all out in that manner. I think there should be some sort of, you know, way to organize so that while you're trying to solve a problem, you don't complicate it.
So you don't create 4 problems while trying to solve one, right? Exactly. You see, thing is, we don't seem to always learn. Yes, let's be fair to ourselves, including to all the people behind this initiative in Sokoto State. Of course, that includes the governor. When people are hungry, they become desperate. When it becomes a matter of survival, not so much can be expected in terms of orderliness, you know, decorum, civility, and so on and so forth. At that point, as I say, you're speaking big Oyinbo, all right? Because somebody is hungry, somebody needs to see the next day. Somebody has not had a single meal in maybe 2 days running, so you're not going to expect much from them. However, I can almost tell you this for free, that if a private sector entity had put this together, it would be a different ballgame altogether. politicians also have a role to play in this. Politicians are always more about the optics than they are about doing things right. They are more about political points than they are about, as it were, just being orderly. Because the truth is, you can't give what you don't have. Most times, politicians who put these things together, beyond the Sokoto state across this country, they are not very orderly in their approach to issues like this. So it rubs off when you put up a palliative kind of initiative, right? So what does it take to organize a system that doesn't have to go rowdy like this? I mean, Abdullah Danjuma, one of our partner correspondents, did a report of how at a particular mosque here in Abuja, food is served to people to break the fast. As a matter of fact, part of that report says to us that over 70,000 eggs, all right, were part of meals over time for these worshippers of the mosque, right? Food is served, no disorderliness, no rowdiness, because there's a system, there's a structure. So the question you're asking yourself, Queen, is what structures, what systems were put in place to ensure that this was properly done? The thing is, you can never have a perfect system anywhere, but you can have excellent systems at some place, somewhere. For example, is it the first time you're putting up this kind of initiative in Sokoto State? Did Sokoto State take a cue from other states that had done it before? Because we have had states where this same thing had been done with larger crowds, and you didn't have this sort of story. So the question is, what did that state or those states do differently? What lessons can we learn from them? It's not enough to be in a hurry to want to score some political points so that the records show that you distributed food or palliatives of any kind. It is more important that you did it the right way, because if there's stampede and people die, no matter the quantity or quality of food you shared or the number of times you had to distribute food or whatever kind of palliatives, it comes to next to nothing, because lives have been lost, and one life is worth way more than $1 billion worth of food. Right.
We're just going to move straight to our next paper, which you'll be bringing.
The New Telegraph, right? Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at the New Telegraph, everyone. Above the name masts, a story there about the African Free Trade Area Agreement. It says value of Nigeria's exports within Africa hits 11.33 trillion naira. That's talking about the AfTA. Allocations, stronger naira projected to reduce fax disbursement. And then a headline with a picture of the Sultan of Sokoto. Sultan felicitates Nigerian Muslim Ummah. Eid al-Fitr, FG declares Tuesday, Wednesday public holidays. Okay. Kegama chides international community over failure to caution against bad governance. Tariff hike, electricity workers threaten to withdraw services. Of course, we expected that to happen naturally, because it was not just going to be a bed of roses with this kind of announcement. It's a bit radical, even though we know the power sector itself, it's one that requires a lot of funding. Okay, say increment will further add to economic hardship, call for Nigerians' support. And then we'll take a look at some headlines on the right end of the front page of today's issue of the New Telegraph. Says, Able North, why parties shouldn't field candidates against Kalu in 2027. Cleric. Group takes Akpabio to court over failure to recall Nengi. Obi to NLC are not leaving Labour Party. I think that's quite specific. Okay. Judiciary has lost direction, CSOs tell CJN. Appointments, mixed fortunes for Tinubu's campaigners. And then at the foot of the front page, exercising regularly will enhance better sleep. That's according to some study. And you can read the finding of that study on page 27 of today's New Telegraph. I'm not sure Queen has exercised in recent times. Ladies don't seem to be very keen I mean, generally on exercising. You haven't exercised this year. This is the fourth month of the year.
A lot of ladies that are keen on.
Let's talk about you as an example. Have you exercised in the last 2 months?
About me, but let me establish the fact that women are keen on exercising.
All right.
But where you might want to come in is asking what type of exercise
do they do?
Keen on. So you see a lot of women in the gym, especially now. Usually, it may be just a few women, but I think that the gym is more saturated with women than men.
Okay.
So the exercise.
And there's a reason for that, I suppose.
There's a reason. Maybe a lot of women are aware of the importance of being fit and building their bodies. So I realize that the exercises for bigger butts, for hips, for slimmer waistlines, and all of that. But generally, a lot of women go to the gym because of they want to keep their body fit. They want their skin to. So because of we're now aware of how the benefits, the numerous benefits of exercising daily, how it affects your skin, opens up your pores, affects your well-being generally. So you asking me, we don't necessarily have to be at the gym.
Yes.
You don't know if I do some of push-ups in my room, if I just,
if you use the staircase instead of the elevator.
Exactly. And then, I take a stroll. Maybe I walk down a bit. Those are exercises. So I think that answers
I knew you were going to find an escape, but hopefully you got one. All right, we have The Guardian coming up next. Queen has that for you.
All right. On the front page of The Guardian newspaper, I always, whenever I have to take The Guardian, I just remember how much you say you love the visuals of The Guardian newspaper and how much it just makes it interesting to read. It says road to 5 billion naira.
500.
I beg your pardon. 500 billion naira recapitalization. Bank owners lobby seek adjustment in share capital composition. We have graphics there. Naira's defense debt servicing gulp 1.4 trillion naira as foreign reserves dip. Gavi Alliance initiates $1 billion program to boost vaccine production in Africa. We also have electricity tariff hike. FCCPC others pressure federal government to revert decision. I'm focused on fixing Nigeria's problems, not Labour Party's internal crisis, says Obi, always looking at the bigger picture. Yusuf knocks Ganduje over criticism of administration. And we also have APC leaders alleged plots to disrupt Ondo primaries. How metering will enhance investment, transparency in power sector. You find that on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Lastly, on the Guardian, we also have criminals in camouflage. How rising impersonation of operatives complicates internal security. Excuse me. I think that's all we have on
The Guardian, right? So this day newspaper is our next part of call for you. We begin with what will appear to be the star headline on the front page of this day. It says KPMG monetary tightening policy will attract more FX inflows, but not enough to tame inflation, right? It has 3 riders for you. It says FDC, Nigeria's surging prices to peak, begin moderate decline from second half of 2024. Suggests VAT should be raised to 10% to fund minimum wage hike. Says Naira undervalued by 26.76%. So that's quite significant percentage. All right, above that headline, Atiku raises concerns over Lagos Calabar Highway project. It's not the first time the former vice president will do that. Right there says, suggests it should have started from Calabar if genuine. Okay. IBB, Atiku, Ogbeha, Wabara, Moro, Okowa, Tambuwal, Hail Mark at 76. That's talking about former Senate President David Mark. All right, FG declares Tuesday, Wednesday public holidays for Eid al-Fitr. What's more, above the nameplate, healthcare delivery is people's rights and not privilege, says First Lady Rami Tinubu. Okay, what's the right there? Rider reads, wants removal of all barriers to actualize health for all. WHO, 4.5 billion people lacked full essential health. That's talking about a global figure there. Yesterday was World Health Day, by the way. Conversations across the globe were essentially about how the world, in this case Nigeria in particular, can better access functional healthcare, right? Without having to travel abroad for malaria, because we once had a very high-ranking politician in this country who had to go to Israel just because he had malaria. And they were wondering, can we not treat malaria anymore in Nigeria or anywhere in Africa? But then that's a story for another day. But for today, the point is, the conversation has been about health. And when you talk about health, it's quite a protracted conversation to have, because you are now dealing with the Japa syndrome, which is very, very worrisome, right? You are not having health workers. Before there was doctors. At the point became doctors and nurses. And later became doctors, nurses, laboratory scientists, and everyone else who works in the health sector, including those in the School of Med lecturing. Everybody is now moving abroad. In fact, one embarrassing situation was a few years ago when some foreign entity came to Nigeria in a very prominent hotel in Abuja, Nigeria's capital here, started recruiting doctors to come work abroad. And some doctors told us they saw senior colleagues of theirs, some of them lecturers in med schools, who were there to also attend that recruitment exercise at the time. It was a show of shame, but whether Nigeria as a country learned a lesson from that or not remains to be seen. I had been at a teaching hospital. As a matter of fact, the A&E, Accident and Emergency Ward of the hospital, in September of 2022, and we realized you had one doctor on duty. That doctor was supposed to have closed at 4, but this was past 9 to 10 p.m. Of course, the doctor was still at work. Was burnt out with only 2 nurses, one, I think a matron, the other one, some sort of young nurse. Everybody trying to put in their best and all of that. Of course, patients all over the place, their loved ones crying and shouting and trying to see how desperately they could get some medical attention. And the nurse says to them, the older nurse says to them, look, you see that doctor over there? I'm not going to be the one to tell you he's burnt out. He was supposed to have closed at 4. He's still here almost 10 p.m. This is almost 6 hours down the line. If he dies here, everybody will go home, one way or another. Because we can't do better than this. And she goes ahead to say, look, the people who used to work here have all moved abroad. And the hospital has not recruited so far. And there's nothing much we can do about that. Because the bulk doesn't stop with us in terms of recruitment. So we're just making do with the limited resources, whether it's material or the hands here at this A&E ward of this facility. So you have that to deal with. And then you have funding also to deal with. The question is, if we want to be sincere with ourselves, are health-related projects properly funded? If you look at the 2024 appropriation, for example, how much did we vote for health? It's very important, because you can't do, and then ultimately how much will be released, because it's one thing for you to earmark or budget a certain amount for health. What you eventually release to health-specific projects is a different ballgame altogether. So how much do we give to health? When the Minister of Health was here sometime last year in October, one of the things I did ask him was funding, and he said, look, the Tinubu-led government is ready to fund health. I mean, whether it's HIV, malaria, hepatitis, maternal health, whatever it is. But we want to see the government match words with action, yes. Incidentally, that's why we're taking a quick break, everyone. When we return, we'll put our conversations on the road for you. Do stay with us. Nigeria's democracy since 1999 has been defined, redefined, and evolved. Now, this journey for what now has become 25 years has been characterized by many factors, including irregularities with the electoral process, then, of course, rifts between governors and their predecessors. In this case, for example, we have seen how this sort of, if you like, strife has had very adverse impact on development of states across this country, from Edo to where else, to say Enugu, to Anambra, even now, say in Kaduna. It is the same story across this entire country. One may say, well, it is between two individuals, so what's our business? But we have also seen how real time this sort of development has become more like a stumbling block, or was still an obstacle for the growth and development of states, whether it's in their economy or social development. We're joined live in the nation's capital via Zoom this morning by Oladochun Hassan, who is a lawyer, public affairs commentator, and president of Yoruba Council Worldwide. Hassan, we're delighted to have you join us on Global Morning.
It's a pleasure to be in your program this morning.
Thank you. So, Queen and I, my colleague, we will be taking a look at this conversation with you. But first of all, I mean, you and I have talked about political issues here time and again, but let's look at how that 1 minute a governor endorses a candidate. As we say in Nigeria, a governor anoints a candidate. That candidate, in most cases, goes on to win the election. Fast forward to a few weeks or a few years down the line, or sometimes as early as a couple of months, the governor, the incumbent, and his predecessor, its political godfather, can't even see eye to eye. Talk to us about some of the developments that lead to such a reality.
Well, it's about our human nature. It is not about politics. It's not about the party. It's not about the issues that most of the time cause these things are more related to human and attitudinal factor in terms of the boss and the servant, because it is more of a boss and servant relationship. And most times the bosses most times don't realize the fact that their servants have grown up and they take the same, they want to espouse the same order, the same instruction, the same interest. And once somebody that you groom, you expect him to have yes, we have these issues across board, from Ambode to Tinubu, Fashola to Tinubu, the Edo State and their own, even the Wike Gate, and even Awolowo versus Akintola. These are issues that have crept into our political landscape. And the earlier we realize that, it impedes development, it impedes growth, it causes a lot of spiral damages, even to the protege and the master. And at the end of the day, the amount of time they spend on impeachment moves to
that was a bit of a glitch there with Hassan Oladochun. Hopefully we get to reconnect with him as quickly as possible so we can get him back on. He was just apparently trying to establish the fact that whatever you see happen between governor and predecessor today, or their predecessor, it's not something that started yesterday morning, but we understand that our guest is back on with us at this point. So thank you, Hassan. You were making a very brilliant point a while ago.
Yes, it's just to make it look real to us that, we need to understand that, especially between, if you are trying to anoint your best choice, most of the times these governors think the most gentle
with us today to have this conversation in a way that is very smooth. But the point is very clear. There's a trajectory to all of these developments with governors and their successor becoming cat and rats, as we often say. But what we're more concerned about is what happens to the states that they are leading, because governance is supposed to be continuum, which means that one person leaves office as a governor after 4 years or 8 years. Whoever succeeds them should take the baton from that point, lead the state beyond that point, or expand the frontiers and so on and so forth. But most times what you find is the two individuals spend the entire time, or most of it, fighting themselves, cursing themselves out. Meanwhile, the state is at a standstill, the state is not growing, because the governor, the incumbents now, doesn't even have the time and energy to devote to the growth and development of the states. Yes.
So you might want to ask why that is. So I believe there should be, like you earlier mentioned, a governor endorses somebody as a predecessor, to succeed him after he leaves office. It's expected that this person is supposed to be, to an extent, loyal
to him,
to this ex-governor,
to the benefactor.
Exactly, to be loyal. And aside from just being loyal, I expect a relationship, a good working relationship, a cordial relationship that would foster
between both of them,
that will foster growth and development in that state. I should be able to consult as an incumbent governor, I should be able to consult the past governor of that state as regards certain issues. That way, this person has been here, this person has walked in the shoes that I am now walking on.
You're making a lot of points, but you have to keep those shoes on for a while. So we understand that Hassan Oladotu has just rejoined us now. We sincerely apologize for the hitches, but this conversation must go on now, mustn't it?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, let me quickly drop it. The fact that, if it were to be the way we are running these governors and their godfather, unfortunately, if this gets to creeping into at the national level to be presidency, when presidents start having godfathers, it seems the past 3 or 4 presidents we've gotten do not have any, though they might have their inner circle, but there is no conscripted godfatherism at that level. But if we eventually get to that level, it will become a most disastrous situation. Because if you were to have the Council of State, whereby we have the Council of former President, as we used to have, they usually hold meeting with the present President, how do we not supposed to be having the Council of Governors that past governors ought to be having meeting with the incumbent governor on way forward? But most of the times, the whole table and the entire idea of building the state, our democracy, is destroyed on the premise of the no treaty for brigandage, for turning, or for backlash, for political war and attrition. And gruesomely, lives are even lost in this game sometimes. Lives are lost because people go to the extreme in order to sustain power. And power corrupts, they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. So in a situation whereby if this kind of ailments are not properly guided, we will continue to immerse the state in a most dangerous disaster. The most current one, which is ongoing, which I've made comment on several times, is that of the issue of Rivers State. Because these governors want a lame duck, they want a do as I say governor. See what is happening in Kogi. The former first lady of the former governor is still trying to stake the authority of the present first lady in Kogi State. And that one cannot shout because that is the system. They want them to be cottoned into their own belief system that I'm only the godfather, I'm the governor, the jury, you are just a governor de facto. And this situation has cost us a lot of monumental disaster. So if care is not taken, and we are looking at this issue as if it's going to be resolved so soon, we may have it a big issue than how we really plan it. But I want to implore that it might not be that setting up a law, it's just about the attitudinal factor of those benefactors who are just out of the many disciples, and they are just chosen as most lucky. Most of the times, their own political associates initiate them into thinking that they are now independent and they should not allow anybody to dictate for them. At the end of the day, they run foul of the office because the Godfather giving you the position already set a landmine across and around you. The landmines are the State House of Assembly. Just as the way you got tickets on a platter of gold, they equally gave tickets to other State House of Assembly who are also maybe benevolent and loyal to the Godmaster. So if the way things are now like that, the governor starts experiencing impeachment because the most supreme leader already took a position against the governor. And that's what is happening in Rivers State. Nothing. What the Rivers State governor has done lack wisdom in my own sense, because you are just there in a couple of weeks, you started destroying the State House of Assembly. That does not have any value. You started using tongues. That does not have any value. Even if anybody is telling you, go and fight Wike, must you now fight Wike to the extent that you lack reason to go and demolish a State House of Assembly? And the former speaker now, you're now appointing your own protege speaker who could not muster the required number of members, who just only had 5 or few non-members. You made him your SSD. Now he's facing a crime for what they did. And you are still shielding, using the gambit of the law through the law court, to using that as a shield. And the law court should not be used as a weapon of destruction in this kind of scenario. And that is the ripple effect of a simple war between two fellows. And that war now is growing like a wildfire in the whole of Rivers State. And if care is not taken, it will lead to total destruction of the governor. They lead to the total destruction of all the members of the State Assembly, because every one of them will annex every power within their means. They will go to their home to begin to call for recall of members. They begin to set their state ablaze. Families will fight against each other. Mothers will rise against the child.
That you mentioned River State is I mean, something that's stuck out for me, quite frankly, because we can't have this conversation about governors and their successors and not have River States come to mind, because one would have thought by now that's one incident that has been overtaken by events, but that just hasn't happened yet, because as of yesterday, news still came through that the governor of River State is saying, look, the only reason I'm trying to be calm, even though they say never in the history of calm down has anybody really calmed down, is that the president is involved in this already. The president has long waited in. Otherwise, I know what I should be doing by now. But let's go right back to our guest, Hassan Oladotun. We understand you're back with us on the program.
So for us to really get it right, we need morals. If you are not prepared for the heat of the kitchen, don't go near the powerhouse. Don't even go near thinking you want to become somebody and you believe that once you have it, you already have your premeditated agenda. You fail, because that person who is bringing you on board, either he had his own motive of sustaining his loot, because majority of these governors looking for protege are doing that because in order to protect their corrupt and infested reign on the state. So, and they equally want continuity of this anomaly. They believe that they just want to sustain their program for the state, and it's as somehow that it might have some goodies to their relationship if their loyalty is sustained. Most of the time, their loyalty is sustained on corruption. The state and the citizen will still be at the detriment, either positive or negative. Their relationship will be. If their relationship is very rosy, they jointly recoup the money they invested in their election. They jointly siphon the money in the state and determine how monies are being spent jointly on a conspiracy level. And that is the danger of the morals of our democracy. We lack political ideology. People don't come into power to sustain ideology for positive reformation. They don't sustain educational revamping. They don't even talk about infrastructural development of the state. That is not their united front. They're only united on how much is going to my personal account monthly. All these whole contractors, I bring them, you must pay through those contractors, and they'll never deliver because you can never query the contractor that is being brought by your master. These are the point of their wars. Their wars are never on the premise of our people. So we should understand that. So we are not speaking because, oh, you are the benefactor and you must be silent. No. Our own opinion is that who is to be blamed? Who do we blame for this whole infraction? It's the people. If the people keep silent on the premise of, oh, let's just do this because it's our town man. Let's do this because it's our turn. Either the person is doing bad. For the fact that President Bola Ahmed is in power and I'm the president of Yoruba Council Worldwide, I still have to tell him the truth. You'll see me at your program several times. I always rage on issues of national interest because it's not about ethnicity now. It's not about him being a Muslim or the wife being a Christian. Those days of campaigns are gone. We don't need to sleep on those. I learned from a pastor recently on the social media who says some people still retain their grudges against the president because they believe it's not from their part. These are issues the people must learn in democratic settings. Now let us begin to vote on the right path. It's not let us don't vote on sentiment. If somebody is not doing the right thing, vote the masters and the protege, vote them out. Vote the right people that will serve you right. If the people learn to vote those that will not influence them with money, those that will not buy their votes, because these people believe they are only mortgaging those that they are buying their votes. How did they buy the votes? They go to the poorest of the poorest who are on the highest scale of election voters, because most of the times the professionals and those that are learned sit back in their four corners of their world. Even at the last 2020 election, how many of them voted? Look at the total population of vote in Ekiti State. Is that the highest of all the population we have there? Even Lagos State, is that the highest population? We among over 20 million. The total amount of votes is not more than 2 million. Is that a democracy? Because we don't see and don't value democracy. We allow democracy to thrive on a solo pilot, thinking that it's going to land safely. No democracy ever survives without the input of the people. And if the input of the people are lacking, have an issue from the beginning, definitely will nosedive into this crisis of a two-horse trading Tom and Jerry game that we're always seeing every day.
Ask you something, Hassan, because you did mention River State in your narrative. As of yesterday, news is saying that the incumbent governor, Siminalayi Fubara, is now saying that, look, if President Bola Tinubu had not waded into the crisis between himself and his predecessor, I mean, who doubles as his political benefactor, Nyesom Wike, now Minister of the FCT, he would have gone some extra mile, maybe taken some extra steps, all right, so maybe check the excesses of the FCT minister. It will appear you are blaming the governor, I mean, Fubara, for the crisis between himself and his estranged godfather.
Well, you know, the River State is the most, I'll call it most embarrassing on the person of Wike, because let Wike always remember that what he's doing now will come back to haunt him. Either he's doing it for his own personal aggrandizement, or he's doing it to just suit his and rub his ego. Because I don't see any reason for him to improve the state into this kind of monumental crisis on selfish interest. Because I don't see any value. Being a lawyer, being somebody who God has blessed to that extent, you don't allow your grace to be muddied in the muddy waters of politics, because you believe that you own it all. And this power corrupt absolutely syndrome is what is affecting. It doesn't mean whether you are well-learned or you are high in as a professor. Once this mentality, and it's quite used to be associated with African mentality, I'm sorry to say that we are just too power grip and power hungry for wealth, for let's just say Baba Sope syndrome. That is the Yoruba balance of power, godfatherism. And he asked them, yesterday, they are the people who agitated against godfatherism. Their videos are there. When they will come to the media, oh, they will shut down Godfatherism, I'll never honor, I'll never do this. They talk from both sides of their mouth. They don't have any value for morals. It doesn't mean that he's the FCT minister today. What he said yesterday are part of his own albatross today, are even part of his own manifestation today. So where do we have the morals? If we have morals in a normal political climate in the Western world, when crises are getting into Christendom like this, you see them resigning. But yet you would either die there, nobody survive. You see the governor going to pulpit and the church to use the opportunity of being at the fora to express his own counter. You see the Senate president also raining issues. You see them just making us look like a jester. They run our democracy like their private offices, like their private life. No. Once these are, there are morals and guidance and ethos that guide public office. It's a different ball game. If you are running into a public office, you don't bring in your personal motive and now to input. You are not a government. Government is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And one man cannot become a people in plural. It's just the collective will and sovereign right of some people that you are joking with. So if this is happening, we've seen it in Edo State between the former governor, what's his name, Adams Oshiomhole, and his own protege, people witnessed several roundups in other states, even in the northern land. Look at what happened in Kano, maybe between Ganduje and his own master. Look, these issues are everywhere. Everybody just wants to become a master of his own game. Look at what happened in Kano, led to demolition of a whole set of buildings because the person there believed that he just wants to make a statement. They demolish, they destroy. They don't even have thinking cap when they are fighting. Their drum beaters are always hailing them. Go on, because they are beneficiaries of the current government, and those that are not benefiting will equally want to say, oh, this pot of soup belongs to all of us. Then what is the pot of soup? The will, the progress of the people are what they are mortgaging. And these are issues that we need to caution. It's not that maybe we're happy then seeing them doing this Royal Rumble thing, but it is really impeding development, and it's impunging the state into monumental disaster that will lead to intra-ethnic crisis within the various states. And this is not really going to add value to definition of democracy.
But I was just going to ask you about Kaduna. Governor Sani now, Uba Sani, is beginning to have again some fracas with his political benefactor. Well, some people say he's his godfather, talking about Nasir El-Rufai, who happens to be the immediate governor of Kaduna State. Now, Governor Uba Sani has said very categorically that, look, El-Rufai is the reason we can't pay salaries in Kaduna State as of today. And the question some people have asked is, at what point did he realize this? Is it some new revelation for him? So how do we also address such an issue?
Yes, you know, I told you this in my introduction, that the essence of this whole issue is not about the people. It's about protecting the loot. It's about guiding and not exposing the loot. That is the essence. And what these former governors don't realize is the fact that you don't belabor a church rat with a heavy load, and you don't expect them to complain. You just want them to keep silence and murmuring behind you, and you don't want them to express. They will definitely express. You cannot bring a grown-up, breed them, and you don't expect them to have a thinking cap of their own. You must learn to free them. We are too yoked with an enslavement mindset. This slavery mentality that, oh, you a slave have no idea. You don't dare raise a voice at your master. They don't have this morals of conversation. You need to sit down. Oh, girl, the amount of money you took that is affecting also is going to have a more huge nemesis on me, because I will bear the brunt if auditor comes and I cannot account for this money. This money are loans in some banks at the same time. Most of the time, these things that they steal most time are loans that they go outside the shores, even investors' money. So because of the lack of fidelity and prudency, we see this archaic level of reasoning. What is happening in Kaduna? Supposed to be that, oh, you don't even need to complain that the former governor stole. If it were to be a Senate crime, it's just for you to put up a petition for the law enforcement agency to investigate. But because there is high-level conspiracy, the present governor is aware of the stealing. He was part of the stealing before he's coming to the office. He had a motive, he had a knowledge of that crime that was committed. Even if the motive was not part of the commitment, but the fact that he had the knowledge of what was committed and you never played any role to salvage that situation, in law you are a co-accomplice after the fact. So there is a level of high-level complicity in this whole game that we are talking about. It's not about sensationalism. It's not about the former governor of Kaduna State through the Sun replying. That is messed up. What the hell would your son who's just I will call him maybe because of lack of morals, everybody becomes a master.
I was going to.
Yeah, you're just going to say something,
right? I
was
going to ask him the potential implications of this rift,
between a governor and a successor. I think he already made a lot of allusion to that the state will suffer, the state will be stagnated, among other things. Yeah.
Exactly. No, not just the states now, particularly, but Nigeria as a whole,
right.
Nigerian politics, and the dynamics of
electioneering, right? And the system that throws people up for public offices, and things like that. Again, he made that point very brilliantly, how that is always about the individuals. So when the governor, the incumbent governor, and the man or woman who is going to succeed him are having that conversation as to the transition, the interest of the state is relegated to the background. It's about how to protect the man who is about to leave the office. All the maybe unethical things he would have done, how that he wants to have a voice at the table, all right, when issues of the state are being discussed. He wants to make sure of that. He wants to make sure that, as he said a while ago, there's going to be a governor de jure, there's going to be a governor de facto, as they say in Latin. All right, so basically the point in all of this is the interest of the state is far from being protected or even projected. And that's why I realize that every time an incumbent governor and his predecessor have a fight, it's not about the state. It's not about what we should have done for the state, what we could do for the state. It's always about the fact that one person's ego has been bruised. One person's interest is being threatened. So you see them fight directly. In the case of Wike and Fubara, for example, Wike has said Fubara is ungrateful, that he doesn't like ungrateful people. He also said that about Godwin Obaseki of Edo State, because he had supported Godwin Obaseki to become governor in 2020, going into second term in office. And then he ruled against Oshomole. But Wike also came to national television to say he was apologizing to Oshomole that he never knew Obaseki was an ungrateful person. I mean, this is Wike doing the assessment all by himself. So it means, on record, Wike has at least two persons who are ungrateful to him. First is Obaseki of Edo State, a state he doesn't come from. And then second is his home state, which is Rivers. Who knows who's going to be ungrateful again to him tomorrow. He's not saying Fubara did wrong by the people. He's not saying you should have built this bridge, you should have constructed this hospital, you should have rehabilitated this road. He's saying loyalty, whatever it is, So it makes it suspicious. And that's why whether or not we're having the right conversation is what I'm not sure of. But then some people also say that there must have been some understanding between Wike and his godson, Fubara, because whether you like it or not, governors when leaving office in this country always have some sort of agreement or understanding with their successors, whether it is written or not. We have even heard of cases in this country of how that a governor had even taken his successor to a shrine to swear allegiance. That's how far politicians can go, because they want to continue to call the shot over the states. More importantly, they want to continue to strangle, as it were, the states. So they realize that even though I've been here for 8 years, I'm not just going to be out so soon. Therefore, whoever comes in next must be loyal to me. Beyond being loyal, they must be at my beck and call, so I can snap fingers and they're pulling actions in my interest. So in the middle of all of this, nobody cares what happens to the states. It's interesting, right? But we're taking a quick break, everyone. We want to thank our guest, Oladosun Hassan, who is a lawyer, public affairs commentator, and president, Yoruba Council Worldwide, for being a part of the program this morning. After this break, it will be time for our second discussion. To stay with us. Well, thank you everyone for staying with us. Our second and last conversation on the program. This morning, I want to look at factors, political, social, and economic, that fuel banditry and overall insecurity in this country. For the most part, we'll talk about kinetic and non-kinetic approaches to dealing with issues of insecurity. But then, at the very base, at the very bottom of this challenge, there are political, social, and economic elements. I want to look at all of those for you in the next couple of minutes on Global Morning. We're joined via Zoom live from Federal University Keshere in Gombe State by Dr. Sule Babayo, who is Senior Lecturer, Department of International Relations at that university. Thank you, Doc, for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning.
Excellent. So I'm just going to start you out with questions around not just insecurity, but how that it has evolved and the factors that have driven this evolution so far.
Well, thank you very much. You know, there are many factors, of course, insecurity in the country. Some of them are entrenched, they are endemic, and they have is now that they have been manifesting as a warning sign, but the policy attention to them until when they finally exploded in the current form that they are now immediate. And for example, of course, private citizen, the way Nigeria is a rich country, or connection with poverty, impoverishment, but unfortunately, because of misutilization of resources by the ruling class, it found themselves in an abject penury, in a life of despair, in a life of impoverishment and deprivation. So, an extent whereby some people are found pledged criminality in order to survive. And so when they now realize that the best form of criminality is the one that pays, so what else do we expect? Of course, many people will venture into it, and nothing can stop them from doing it. So our collapsing security architecture. You know, Nigeria is one of the countries in organized and recommended in terms of a very solid security foundation, requiring our own internal security system, but we have also been instrumental in assisting some sister African countries to the war-torn societies that are devastated by conflict. And not only that, we have also participated in the United Nations Global Peacekeeping Mission. But unfortunately, our security architecture collapsed according to some. They are mixed up. They are mixed up in the sense that the military that is supposed to provide defense only, particularly external defense, have been utilized and deployed for internal politics and other things, while the police that is supposed to provide protection has been relegated to the background. As a result of this mix of the security architecture collapse, and so therefore our security is not situations the way they should be tackled. The third issue, of course, which is the biggest, the gigantic, and which is the always usually referred to is corruption. Almost all ramifications in this country, not only from the policy maker, but among the security personnel, among civil servants. In fact, among almost all segments of the society, corruption always manifested. So therefore, because our security agencies are not provided with the adequate modern gadget and They don't have enough equipment for surveillance. They don't have enough facilities in order to tackle particularly this kind of insecurity, particularly this kind of the armed groups that are causing this security threat are not directly facing our security personnel in a direct combat. Hit and run or hide and seek fighting. So it needs a high level of intelligence, deployment of highly level technical gadgets and equipment of surveillance in order to detect easily where they hide. But unfortunately, because of corruption, the security issue has now been turned into a part. Those in the Ministry of Defense, some policy makers, and the security personnel themselves are allegedly accused of turning. Well, another issue also related to it is politics, of course. These conflict entrepreneurs are believed to have been behind the orchestration and machinations of some of this conflict for several reasons. Some example, in some areas like in Zamfara State, it is believed that there is a huge deposit of commercial gold. Even the benefit of these resources, and therefore they don't want any form of peace to exist there. So therefore they are happy by sponsoring the conflict. It is alleged bandits that they are supporting them, they are shielding them, they are informing them, so that they will continue to terrorize people, they will continue to ostracize people from such areas so that they will be deserted, and then they will be able to have access to these resources without paying what is due for the government, without paying what is due for the state. And also tied to it or related to it is lack of political will. You know, we are in a democratic compensation. Sometimes for you to take you need to take a decisive action. You need to be aggressive in taking a decision that has to do with some. Our politicians always think of election. If I take such an action, who will be offended? Who will be hurt? Who will not support me in this election? All these things. So because of all this, sometimes they remain very soft in taking a quick decision that is necessary in handling such matters. And then before I land here, finally, I think one fundamental issue that is causing all these things are some of the socio-economic policies that our policy makers are embarking on, which are not only detrimental, but they are destructive, they are harmful, and they are pushing people into poverty. Imagine a government in less than a year
Again, that's a hitch there we're experiencing with Dr. Babayo Sule, who's joining us live Zoom from Gombe State this morning. He was just walking us through some of the core social, political, and economic elements responsible for fueling insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and all forms of manifestation of insecurity that we've come to see in our dear country. He did mention some deposit of gold in Zamfara. Of course, this is not the first time we're hearing that. We've heard stories about how that there's a cartel, whether political or economic, that is actually funding the unrests in that part of the region, because that's northwest of Nigeria, by the way. All right, just to ensure that there continues to be crisis, to achieve two things. One, to ensure that they are able to continue to milk the resource, which is gold in this case, to continue to mine illegally. And then, of course, on the other hand, they're able to use that to drive political advantage for themselves while solidifying their relevance politically. Recall that just recently, I know you have a very brilliant point you want to make, but very recently, Queen, the Minister of Solid Minerals Developments, talking about Dela Laki, has said, look, there's a cartel, there's a kind of cabal. All right, that is, I mean, there are strong Nigerians, influential Nigerians that are behind all of this. But we understand that our guest, Dr. Babayo Sule, has been reconnected. So we're sorry about that hitch, Doc. You want to continue with your narrative?
Yeah, sorry, but I wanted to make a last point before I drop this question that you asked me. That is reasons behind the escalating or worsening security situation in Nigeria. And
right.
That one vital issue that we need to look into is the recklessness of the policymakers in terms of initiating some are harmful and are pushing people into a miserable kind of living, which is causing people to engage in all kind of criminality. Well, worldwide, wherever you go, government are busy providing subsidies, initiating policies that will ameliorate hardship and provide some succor for this. Of capitalism that has been practiced in Europe more than 200 years ago, and they trust their footsteps and reverse this crude capitalism for a genuine one by intervening in making people's life easier through such kind of social security policies. But now, 200 years later, after it failed in Europe, is now that our society is implementing the same thing. Imagine a government that was voted by the people under within less than a year is busy removing subsidy without forming any committee, is busy devaluing Naira without forming any committee, is busy hiking electricity tariff by over 200. But for them now to implement an ordinary minimum wage, they are forming a committee that has been. This is to tell you that such policies are making the unbearable to the extent that it pushed many people out of many people out of farming. It pushed many people out of artisanship. Many people are now losing their result of that. They only found criminality or resort in order to survive. So therefore, in as much as detrimental economic policies, listening to IMF and all to emasculate and country, then we shall continue to face such impact. What we are witnessing now will just be a child play. God forbid we are not praying, in as much as such policies will continue in this country, because the number of those that will be trooping into such crimes will triple or rather quadruple in a number that we are not expecting soon, unless the government and then decided to do the needful.
Dr. Babayo, very recently we hear of a gun house where guns are manufactured. They were raided by operatives of the police. Now, I want to know how the availability of resources in terms of money and weapons, yes, how the availability of these resources, how it has strengthened the longevity of these insurgent groups in the country, and also how it can be mitigated. Can you hear me, Dr. Babayo?
Yeah, I can hear you. And it seems that it is season, but
okay. I said very recently.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please. I said very recently we discovered some houses, gun houses, and places where these insurgent groups most likely get weapons and resources. I want us to talk about how the availability of resources has strengthened the capacity and the longevity of these insurgent groups?
Of course, you know now these weapons that you are being produced or rather being obtained. We have what we call the locally made ones, and then we have that are obtained through illegal route, through black market. But of the factors, of course, that cause this is the order in Libya, which was NATO intentionally and deliberately collapsed the route for the flow of these small arms and light weapons. And some statistics indicate that particularly West Africa is a home to these weapons that are flowing, that there are about more than 600 small arms and light, and about 60 or 70% of these weapons are in illegal hands, and they are meaning that if these statistics that are being reported are true, the small arms and light weapons in the hands of illicit armed groups that are operating within Nigeria. But this is not even the issue. Is these armed groups had developed now the technical capacity to, including grenade, machine guns, semi-automatic, IEDs, and even many other. Intelligence report indicate that they are even producing anti-aircraft made today, and they are now being sold, like for example, AK 150,000, revolver at 150,000, and so many. But the most fundamental issue is that these houses which are providing weapons to these small, to these insurgent armed groups, is an indicator that even the Department of turned into another multi-million or multi-billion-dollar criminal cartel, and is an independent criminal to the insecurity, because there are those that are now busy producing the weapons or that are busy trading illegally in the weapons, who are not criminals, but they are suppliers to these criminals. Are getting the ransom money, and then they are patronizing the manufacturer or the dealers of these weapons. So the problem with insecurity is that it has a multidimensional and multivariant phases, and then once it exists, it will continue to. It has to do with, based on your question, my simple answer here is it has to do with weak intelligence. And I think I responded earlier to that. In modern warfare system, in modern rely in a crude or antiquated obsolescence method of securing intelligence. You have to use modern gadget. But this is what the government is not providing for our security agencies. In most cases, all partial method of securing information. I have seen this person, I'm just suspicious of him, I'm just suspicious of this home, I want to know about this, I want all this. These are all methods. They are CCTV cameras, you will have the footage, you will relax in your office, you will be detecting and watching activities, and then you will be identifying. You will be using drones in order to get information and so many other things. But
thank you, Dr. Babayo. Very salient point you've raised, and your concerns clearly articulated. We will definitely have you on our program again. Thank you for your time with us.
Is it still there? Okay, I think network was a bit nasty in between, but his points were very clear, all right? There's so much of misplacement of priorities. He talked about how the military that should essentially be involved with protection of our territorial integrity, not brought into the public space to deal with issues that primarily and fundamentally are meant for the police to tackle. Just to mention, Queen, Nigeria has one of the best police or policing system in the world. I mean, on a very good day. A training has just been concluded in Jordan now in the Middle East, courtesy of the United States government. Nigeria emerged the best. Nigeria police in particular emerged the best. So this is not, I mean, this is away from home, this is away from Africa. So that shows you how good we can be on a very good day. But the question is it a good day for us? Well, I'm sure we can make it one if we want to. He talked about willpower, or what he called specifically political will. We need that because most times those who have been elected or appointed into public offices want to be politically correct, and you can't do that. I mean, you can't eat your cake and have it, as I say. You can't have it both ways. There are points where you've got to find the courage to do the right thing. But most times politicians want to factor in the next election. What are my chances, especially since I'm standing for election for a second term in office? If I make this move, if I take this action, if I maintain this hardline stance, will it not rub off adversely on my chances at the polls? So at that point, it is not so important how much of public interest it serves. It's about who wins the next election. So there's a whole lot of work on the table for us to do. That's the point.
A whole lot of work on the table too. And I really hope that aside of the interest of politicians, the interest of the people can be looked into.
Right.
You know, when we talked earlier about governor and predecessor rift, one thing that you'd clearly see, even as our guest spoke, is the fact that the state is never considered. Because if the states were to be considered, you find that all of this rift will be put aside for the common goal of seeing that the state and the welfare of the people in that state is met. Rifts aside, grudges aside, but we've seen that most of these people come into political office for selfish reasons, and that's why, maybe because if their interest is not protected, if their skeletons are not covered properly, they begin to have rifts with their predecessor, I beg your pardon, and they complain about loyalty. When we should hear, of course I expect that, some of these rifts are not new to humans, are not new to political office holders.
In any area of life.
In any area of life, rifts are not new. But the question is, what kind of rift, what kind of dispute, or what kind of fraction it should be when we're talking about governor-predecessor relationship? The kind of rift I expect to hear or to see is that you are not living up to the capacity that I expect you, because look at the capacity that I filled in for, and you being my predecessor are going way below. If you're talking about godfather and godfatherism, those should be the relationship that we expect. In
other words, should be guided by public interest.
Public interest, basically. The big factor here should be public interest and not personal gains or personal interest. And like I said, in other words, what I expect, this rift should be about is the interest of the people and not that of politicians.
Well, I'm sure our guests totally agree with that position as well. As it turns out, that's where we're living it on Global Morning today. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of it. Remember that the views of our guests on all of our programs, including Global Morning, their opinions. Queen Agaba and I saying thank you for investing in a part of your Monday morning with us, and everyone here at Global Television Abuja says a big thank you as well. We'll see you again, stay with Global TV. Bye-bye.
Have a beautiful day ahead.